Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
After 38 years of marriage, 3 grown children who are now married themselves, and 5 wonderful grandchildren, my wife pulls this on me. I've spent years working hard to pay off every debt, and now, just 2 years away from retirement, she tells me she's heading to Arizona for a mandatory educators conference. I dropped her at the airport on Monday with plans to pick her up on Thursday. Then, while a coworker of mine is in Las Vegas for a PBR event, he sends me a photo that hits me like a punch to the gut. There she is, in a casino, with none other than our primary care physician. It's like a cruel joke. She was singing solos in church on Sunday, and now she's spending the week with this guy. With Christmas right around the corner and all our kids coming home, I'm torn. I've been looking forward to hunting with my son and grandsons, and I don't know whether to keep it together until after the holidays or blow it up now. Maybe I could gather more evidence and pick her up as if nothing's wrong, but I don't know if I can manage that. The thought of breaking this news during the holiday season and hurting my family at such a meaningful time just doesn't sit right with me. In over 40 years together, I never once suspected my wife would cheat. I never have, and I thought she hadn't either. Now, the life I believed was so solid has come crashing down. Honestly, I'm grateful my parents aren't here to see this. Tomorrow, I may just catch a flight myself to see what she's really up to. They're probably using different names, but I'm determined to find out. The worst part is, both of my brothers have passed away, so there's no one left I can truly open up to about this mess. Maybe I could talk to the pastor, although at this point, I'm half wondering if she's betrayed me there, too. I met with a lawyer and a private investigator today. After discussing everything, they advised me on the steps I should take. I arranged for her sister to pick her up from the airport tomorrow instead of me, and I'm staying at my camp for a few days to gather myself. For now, I've resisted the urge to confront her or the doctor directly. As hard as it is, holding back will help me gather more evidence and protect myself legally. I'm going home tonight. My 84-year-old mother-in-law, who's been widowed for 12 years, will be devastated by this. My wife has 3 sisters, each in long-term marriages of their own. Tomorrow night, my wife's family is coming to our house for Christmas, as they do every year. Since my father-in-law passed away, I've been the one to grill steaks for everyone on Christmas. If I skip out on this, it'll raise too many questions, and if I stay at my camp, it'll disrupt my plans to spend time with my son and grandsons later on. So, I've decided to go home, keep up appearances, and keep this hidden, for now. So far, I haven't confronted her directly. We've exchanged a few texts, but I haven't given her any reason to suspect that I know anything. To keep things discreet, I gave my private investigator, PI, the codes to the gate and the house, and he was able to access her desktop at work with the help of an IT guy. Somehow, he's set it up so that he's receiving her texts through my cloud account. I'm not entirely sure how, but it's working. Although I'm not in contact with the PI or my lawyer every day, I know they're gathering everything they can. I have an appointment with them next Friday morning to go over everything, 1 week from tomorrow. Holding my anger in check has been harder than I expected, especially as more comes to light. Part of me wonders if I'm spending too much on the PI at this point, but my attorney wants me to keep collecting evidence until I can confront her. Hopefully, after next week's meeting, I'll have enough proof to end this whole nightmare and stop paying for the PI services. Every year, I spend the week before and after Christmas at my camp, so my absence raises no suspicions. I've kept my anger in check so far, but it's been incredibly hard. After I see everyone for Christmas, I plan to head back to the camp on Sunday, as usual, and go hunting with my son and grandsons the week leading up to Christmas, our yearly tradition. I haven't seen her in nearly 2 weeks, and I never thought the love I had for her could shift into this level of hatred and contempt. Here's my plan. I'll gather all the evidence from my lawyer next Friday, then wrap it as a gift for her. After Christmas lunch, when we open gifts with our children and grandchildren, I'll have her open her gift last. I'll tell her to show it to the children, take her phone, and leave. My next stop will be the doctor's house, where I'll hand his family the evidence as well. Afterward, I'll file for divorce on grounds of infidelity. I returned home from camp last Thursday evening and found her there. I was exhausted from nights of poor sleep, so our conversation was minimal. Friday night, we hosted our annual Christmas gathering with her mother and 3 sisters, and I managed to keep my composure without her suspecting a thing. Saturday, I was out for most of the day, and after church on Sunday, I returned to my camp, where my son and grandsons met me for our hunting week. Now, I'm back home tonight, ready for Christmas Day. We'll attend church with our children and grandchildren on Sunday, then come back here for lunch and gifts. It's a struggle to hold this in, but I'll keep it together a little longer for the sake of my family. I've managed to keep my emotions in check so well that no one suspects the upheaval I'm dealing with. I've decided against revealing her affair on Christmas. Instead, I have an appointment with my attorney on Tuesday morning to review all the evidence gathered by him and the investigator, along with the finalized divorce papers. My plan now is to bring our son and 2 daughters to the house for a family meeting on Tuesday night. I'll confront my wife about the affair in front of them, laying everything out at once. As for confronting the doctor and his wife, I still haven't settled on how, but I'm determined to make his life and career pay for what he's done. We made it through Christmas with my children, grandchildren, and in-laws. On Monday morning, I met with my pastor and confided in him about what had been happening. He arranged a meeting between me and the wife of the doctor. We agreed to confront our spouses together on Monday night, each demanding a written account of the affair. When I confronted my wife, I didn't allow her to say anything. I simply told her I knew she had been in Vegas and with whom, and that there was nothing left to explain. She now has to account for her actions, and the consequences are unfolding. Thank you all for your support through this. It's been my only outlet. I instructed her to write a detailed confession, making it clear that any contradiction with the evidence I held would mean there would be no chance of reconciliation. On Tuesday morning, I met with my attorney, reviewed all collected evidence, and received guidance on my options. Later that afternoon, I approached the doctor's employer and demanded his termination, which happened the same day. That evening, I gathered our children, and their mother told them everything herself. They were shocked and deeply hurt. She then went home with one of our daughters and has been staying there since. I'm currently considering my options and the best course forward. At this point, I see no path to reconciliation, but am focusing on sorting out my own marriage situation before making any further decisions regarding the doctor. She confessed to everything and addressed every specific detail I required in her letter. Did I ask her why? Yes, I did. She explained to me and the kids that she didn't fully understand why she did it. She described it as a compulsion or addiction, something she knew was damaging her life but felt unable to stop. She apologized to our children, saying no child should have to experience disappointment or embarrassment because of a parent's actions. How did she react? She's absolutely devastated, showing deep remorse and begging for forgiveness from me and our children. That said, I'm being cautious about her words, as I'm unsure of what to believe right now. Does she understand what she has done? Yes, she does. She's aware of the weight of her actions and the pain she has caused. How did my children react? One of my children told her that it would have been easier to bury me than to face this betrayal. The other 2 agreed. Their shock and hurt run deep. Do I still want to be married? I don't know. That's why I never cheated on her. Marriage has always held meaning for me, and fidelity was part of that commitment. Have I met with the AP's wife? Yes, we've met twice, and we've also communicated by phone and text several times since. She has been working through her own pain, and we've supported each other where possible. Do I care about the AP's family after having him fired? My concern lies with the future patients, wives, or families who might suffer due to his lack of boundaries. His actions are his responsibility, and I've focused on protecting others from similar pain. Am I divorcing her? I don't know yet. It's still a question I'm weighing carefully. Have I sought therapy? Not yet, although I'm open to it if I find it necessary. What I want more than anything right now is for all of this to be over. I'm aware therapy could help, but I'm trying to address the immediate situation first. I remember, but I'm just browsing some subs for a while, so feel free to ask me anything you want to know. It's not like I have to spend quality time with my wife. She's not here. Oh, and as to why she's at my daughter's place and not my in-laws. Her father passed away, and her mother is 84. I don't want her mom to deal with this mess. She's staying with my youngest daughter and her husband, who don't have children yet. There's no chance she'll turn any of my kids against me, especially my youngest. She's 10 years younger than her sister and 12 years younger than her brother, and she spent more hours with me in the deer stand, boat, office, and truck than we could even begin to count. She doesn't even let her mother say anything bad about me, much less lie. The first text from him was asking her, "How does it feel to be the most beautiful person in any room you enter?" This was referring to a funeral we all attended. My sister-in-law once told me my mother had commented about my wife when she got breast implants about 30 years ago, saying, "She'll be showing those new things to someone else." I don't think I can ever get over what she did with him. It's hard to erase that image. She's a beautiful woman and has been told that her whole life, but time is catching up, and she struggles with that. She's done a good job staying ahead of it, but it's a race we all eventually lose. I haven't told her what I plan to do. As far as I know, she doesn't have any idea. My daughter mentioned her phone is dead and that she's had no communication with anyone but our kids. I'm not sure if she knows about any of this. The AP's wife called me when she learned he'd been fired, and said she was considering going after my wife's job as well. When I first confronted my wife, I told her the AP's wife knew about the affair and required him to answer the same questions in writing that I had asked her. I had a brother who was 14 years younger than me. He was a college professor and lived about 8.5 hours away from our hometown. Sadly, he died in a motorcycle accident in 2017, leaving behind a daughter who is now 24, married, and lives in another state. She's come home to visit her mother and in-laws with her new baby. My sister-in-law has never remarried. I called my sister-in-law last night to ask when my niece would be going back home. She's actually staying this week with her husband's parents, who live about 40 minutes from my sister-in-law. My kids are overwhelming me, so I've decided to take a road trip. I'm excited to meet my great-nephew, who is named after my brother and me. I'll be arriving late tonight. I asked my sister-in-law to reserve me a hotel room, but she insisted there's no way that's happening. She said I'll be staying with them, watching movies and eating ice cream. I'm not sure when I'll be back. I haven't spoken to or communicated with my wife since Tuesday night, as I've blocked her number. I called my son to let him know where I was going and to check on the rental property my company owns. It's a house that recently had tenants move out, and it's been completely renovated with the intent to sell. I told him to inform his mother that she needs to come and get what she wants from our house and move into the rental property. She'll need to pay rent to my son, who will then pay my company. I'm having a new keypad installed on the gate and doors to my house on Wednesday, so if she wants her things, now is the time to retrieve them. When I called my sister-in-law, I mentioned that I would be coming alone to see my niece and her new baby. She asked why my wife wasn't coming, and I simply said there were some issues I'd explain when I arrived. I got here around midnight, and she had just taken a hot pound cake out of the oven, which was the best thing I'd eaten in weeks. I shared all the details of my situation with her. While I teared up a few times, I eventually broke down and wept. She was very supportive and cried with me, helping to soothe my bruised ego. After our conversation, I felt a bit better and went upstairs to bed around 3 a.m. Yesterday morning, she cooked me bacon and eggs for breakfast. As I ate, she told me that while I might make the rules and run the show at home, things would be different at her place. She then laid out my schedule for the day, starting with a haircut appointment at 1 p.m., which I desperately needed. Afterward, we planned to head to Dillard's to buy some new clothes that fit me since I've lost over 30 pounds in 3 weeks. Later, I would join her at a friend's house for a bonfire and fireworks. Today, I was also going with her to church, and afterward, she planned to visit her parents. For dinner tonight, she's cooking for us, and her daughter and son-in-law will be coming over to eat and visit. Tomorrow, her son-in-law is taking me deer hunting with dogs on an 8,000-acre timber company property. He's off all week, and if I want to, I can stay and hunt the entire time. My sister-in-law offered to wash my clothes and feed me, which is a nice change. I've never done this kind of hunting before, so I'm not sure what to expect. We agreed not to discuss my problems again until I leave to go home, so I decided to follow her lead. She took me to her regular salon, and on the way there, she said she was going to have some fun introducing me by my first and middle names. I was puzzled and asked what she meant, but she just laughed and told me to play along. She wanted to give those women something to talk about. My middle name is my mother's maiden name, and that's how she introduced me to her hairstylist. During my haircut, when she asked where I was from, I told her Detroit. There's no way my accent would let anyone believe that, but my sister-in-law quickly chimed in, saying I was a logger. Next, we headed to Dillard's. I hadn't shopped for anything in years and ended up buying 3 pairs of pants, 4 shirts, 2 pairs of shoes, a tie. Can you believe I spent $75 on a tie? And a Hart Schaffner Mark suit. According to her, it was the only suit my brother would wear. I had no idea he was so particular about his clothes. I also got a new belt, and the suit had to be hemmed. She managed to convince them to do it while we waited. On the way home, she announced that I would be her date for the party at church. She told me to look at her like I would a new gun so they would buy it. I went along with her, but at the party, I claimed to be from Atlanta and said I sold road graders, mentioning I'd been married and divorced 4 times. At church this morning, we arrived late and left early because she didn't want to be struck by lightning for lying in church. She sat right next to me and held my hand as we walked out. I've had a great time, feeling a bit like Dumb and Dumber with my 46-year-old sister-in-law. She's been joking the whole time, and I've genuinely laughed for the first time in 3 weeks. Tomorrow, I plan to go hunting and might stay until Wednesday, but I need to be back at work by Friday. I've spoken with my son a couple of times, and he thinks they should consider getting her some medical help. She's not saying much and spends most of her time in her bedroom at my daughter's house. Her phone is dead, so he and my other daughter communicate with her through my youngest child. The AP's wife sent her a long text, calling her everything but a child of God. I haven't communicated with my wife. She asked where I was and told my daughter that she understands why I can't forgive her. My son mentioned that she looks like death. I still don't see any path to reconciliation. However, I'm not going to file for divorce until I'm completely sure. Some people have suggested that I could divorce and reconcile if I change my mind, but that feels like a waste of time, energy, and money. When I decide to divorce, it will be final. I also won't sue the AP unless I do go through with the divorce. If I do, I'll sue him to offset the divorce settlement. Otherwise, I don't want his money. I've come to terms with the fact that this isn't going to end anytime soon and that my life will never be the same. I started keeping a journal today, and I've realized it helps me organize my thoughts by writing them down. My daughters took my wife to the ER yesterday morning because she was dehydrated. Tests revealed that her kidney function wasn't where it should be, and she was showing signs of confusion. She was admitted, and the IV drip started. They'll run more labs today, and a psych evaluation has also been ordered. They were told to expect her to be in the hospital for most of the week. My son reached out to her sisters to inform them about her hospitalization and that I was out of town. As far as I know, her sisters and mother are unaware of the affair. I plan to sit down with her mother and oldest sister this weekend. Looking back, I realize I should have done that last Friday before I left town. I'm still at my sister-in-law's house. I went hunting yesterday, but it's raining today, so I decided not to go again this morning. Last night, we had a delicious meal of fried steak, mashed potatoes with gravy, homemade biscuits, apple cobbler, and ice cream. She had a couple of errands to run this morning, but told me to be dressed and ready to go when she gets back, as we're going to do some rambling. Whatever that means. I mentioned that rainy days are good for two things, and I wasn't feeling sleepy. When she returned, she said that the kids don't need both their parents in the hospital due to dehydration, so she's going rambling. I guess I'm glad to be here. I really don't want to talk to my friends just yet, nor do I want to be at work. I have my laptop and phone with me, and my assistant, who has been with me for 25 years, is handling business as usual. He knows about the affair because he was the one who informed me about the Vegas trip. Hashing all of this out on Reddit has been helpful. I know some of you may be tiring of my posts, and I've started a journal, so I can always just write there if you lose interest in my story. Thank you again for all your messages. Many have been thought-provoking and helpful. My mind is clearer now than it has been since I received that text about her and the AP. I called my wife's sister to give her a brief overview of the affair and what led to my wife's hospitalization. She was genuinely shocked and offered her apologies and sympathy. My mother-in-law is leaving tomorrow morning on a trip with 3 other widows she's friends with, who my daughters jokingly call the BHB gang, or blue-haired bitches. She said she wouldn't mention the affair or the psychiatric evaluation to her, just that my wife's condition didn't seem serious enough for me to return home from my trip and that I was with others. She assured me it wasn't necessary for me to come back right now. She also mentioned that my mother-in-law was very worried about me when they left my house, noting that I didn't seem like myself and looked very down. The sisters are planning to help my daughters and daughter-in-law during my wife's hospital stay, and one of them will take her home until she's able to move back into our house. I called my youngest daughter and asked her to go to the office, cash a check, buy a card, and take it to her grandmother's house. I have a name stamp at the office that she can use to sign the card, including a note wishing her an enjoyable trip and letting her know I love her. I'm thankful for Reddit for catching that. I hadn't even thought of it. As for an update, it turns out that rambling involved going to the grocery store, dry cleaners, paying the electrical bill, a trip to Home Depot, and, lastly, a clinic visit that cost $112. 15 minutes later, I found out I don't have any STDs. My sister-in-law matter-of-factly explained that no man with a junkie monkey is staying at my house, so for those advising me to endure that humiliating experience, rest assured that I'm clean. In terms of my wife's health, her kidney function has improved, but according to the psychiatric evaluation, she's experiencing a psychotic break. She's confused about where she is and believes that we were involved in a traffic accident and that I'm dead. She is upset that my funeral was held without her. She's been crying and mumbling things that they can't understand. Tonight, she was moved to a hospital that specializes in mental trauma, where they expect she will fully recover in a matter of days or weeks. She's not allowed any contact with anyone for the next 10 days, so my middle daughter will be the family contact for afternoon updates until visitors are permitted. It's truly an unbelievable and unnecessary mess. I'm still at Sparky's place, and she has scheduled me for a 9:30 appointment tomorrow morning with a psychiatrist she saw for 2 years after my brother's tragic death. I managed to get a shower, but when I was putting on my pajamas to go back downstairs, I discovered that all of my perfectly good white Fruit of the Loom boxer shorts were gone. They've been replaced with boxer briefs from Duluth Trading Company. Each one has a band that says, "Go Buck Bear," and comes in red, black, neon blue, maroon, and various shades of gray. When I asked her about it, she jokingly said that the 60s called and wanted their ugly underwear back. As for an update, I returned home Thursday night after an appointment that morning with the psychologist my sister-in-law had seen after my brother's death. The meeting did not go well. To be fair to the counselor, I went in feeling reluctant and very angry, which made it uncomfortable for me to discuss the details of my wife's affair. I had to be at work on Friday for a contract meeting that required my presence and signature on a modified agreement. I also met with my children Friday afternoon to talk about their mother's status. The clinician requested a discharge plan for her, and I made it clear that she couldn't return home to live. Instead, they should prepare her to move into a rental property. The status report today was encouraging, showing progress she made over the weekend. They're also considering family sessions as early as the end of this week. I told my children that I wouldn't be attending any of those sessions, expressing that her recovery isn't my responsibility and I'm not going to participate in it. I'm not sure they fully agree with my approach, but it's what I believe is best. I did commit to not filing for divorce in the next 6 months, giving me some time to assess the situation. I went to church on Sunday and sat in the same spot where we have for nearly 40 years. None of the affair partner's family was there, and I didn't ask my pastor about their status because I simply don't care. This afternoon, I met with a psychologist recommended by my pastor. It was a productive meeting. He's 74 years old and works part-time from an office behind his home. He explained the goals he wants to achieve with me, and I agreed that I needed to follow every step he outlined. I like him and feel comfortable with him, so we agreed to meet weekly. On Wednesday morning, an investigator from the State Medical Board Examiner's office is scheduled to come to my office due to a complaint filed against the affair partner. I'll be required to give a sworn deposition regarding the affair. I'm feeling the weight of every step I have to take as a result of her actions. While I don't believe she's faking her mental breakdown, I'm finding it very difficult to feel sympathetic. I haven't posted recently because not much has happened. To give you a brief summary, my wife is still in treatment and has agreed to stay for 30 days. She's doing better, but my children agree that she needs more in-house treatment. I haven't spoken to her directly since December 27th. She withdrew from her retirement account to cover costs. I haven't sat down with my mother-in-law yet, but she and her daughters have visited my wife. I texted my mother-in-law to let her know I would come by when I felt ready to talk, and she has called several times to check on me. She seems sad but also strong. As for the affair partner, there's no new information, but his house is for sale. I'm not sure if they are separated or still together. I've had 2 counseling sessions so far, and am actually looking forward to my next meeting on Monday. It seems to be helping me. The affair is still being talked about, and while I feel embarrassed by her actions, I continue to go to church and keep my head held high. My children and grandchildren are doing well. Keeping busy at work and managing my son's re-election campaign has been a good distraction. Lately, I've also noticed more attractive women around, which is something I'm becoming aware of, though I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. My wife was released from the hospital on Tuesday and moved into a rental property owned by my company. It's an older house that has been completely renovated. I still haven't spoken to her since December 27th, but she has sent me 2 letters expressing her remorse and asking for my forgiveness. I haven't replied, except to inform my children that I've read the letters and will reach out when I'm ready to discuss our past and future. We have a housekeeper who has worked for my wife for over 20 years. I sent some men to my house, and under my daughter's guidance, they moved a bedroom suite and other essentials to set up a comfortable living space for her. They even purchased new furniture, all of which was ready for her return from the hospital for over a week. She has arranged for the housekeeper to assist her daily for as long as needed, providing her with a driver and sitter during the days when her sisters are staying overnight. I had dinner with my mother-in-law on Tuesday night and explained my position to her. She was very understanding and supportive. According to my son, his grandmother visited my wife last night and was less than sympathetic, evidently not holding back in their discussion about her betrayal. Tomorrow, I'll be going to Sparky's. She has tickets for a concert on Saturday night that she was supposed to attend with a girlfriend, but her friend can't make it due to a coworker's funeral. On Saturday, we'll be flying to North Carolina in the afternoon and returning on Sunday. I'm looking forward to doing something different and hope to enjoy the trip. I've actually been finding counseling helpful and look forward to my weekly sessions. They help me compartmentalize the various aspects of my life. I continue to attend weekly counseling sessions, which I find helpful for organizing, processing, and acting on my thoughts, emotions, and plans. Many people have asked how I'm doing, and the simplest answer is that I'm fine. However, I also feel heartbroken, angry, lonely, and extremely sad about what our life and marriage have become. I have sat down with my wife several times to discuss our situation, how we arrived here, the specifics of her betrayal, and our path forward. We've had these conversations both privately and with our children. I have also attended 2 of her counseling sessions, one just with her and the other with her and our 3 children. At this point in our lives, I can't reconcile with her. I have several reasons for feeling this way. First, the affair was purely physical and involved planning a trip where she allowed me to unknowingly drive her to catch a plane, kissing me and telling me she loved me before spending several days with him in a hotel. Additionally, she will require lifelong medical treatment, including medication and counseling, due to a psychotic breakdown caused by her betrayal. This isn't a natural, unavoidable illness like cancer or dementia, and I would have supported her through any of that. The person I loved was honest, vibrant, joyful, respected, and beautiful, but that person no longer exists. She is now broken, sad, and medicated, and she has retired. I've asked my lawyer to draft a settlement agreement and provided full disclosure of all financial information to her and my children because I want them to know I've treated her fairly. Despite her ongoing remorse and pleas for forgiveness, she remains unwilling to discuss a monetary settlement or divorce. While my children hope for reconciliation and want me to work things out with their mother, they seem to understand my position. Easter had always been a meaningful family weekend for us, but this year was different. My wife and I found ourselves excluded from our children's plans, as they chose to focus on their own family activities. It feels like they are trying to create a new normal without us in the picture. Additionally, I'm unaware of the current status of the affair partner's case before the state board. He is now working in an emergency room in a neighboring state. After 6 long months of navigating the emotional turmoil and uncertainty, I finally took the step I had been contemplating for far too long. I filed for divorce. The moment I signed those papers felt surreal, like lifting a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. The process moved swiftly, and soon enough, the court granted my divorce. While part of me expected some resistance, I was taken aback by the way my children sided with their mother throughout everything. It hurt deeply to feel that divide, but I realized that holding on to the past was only dragging me down. So, I made the difficult decision to cut ties with them. It wasn't easy, but I needed to prioritize my own well-being and happiness. When everything came crashing down, it turned out that my wife's lover was also facing his own demons. Just as the truth about their affair was uncovered, he lost his job in the emergency room. The fallout from his actions became undeniable, and the hospital's board had no choice but to terminate his employment due to the scandal surrounding him. I couldn't help but feel a sense of bitter satisfaction knowing that he was now facing the consequences of his choices, just like my family was. Suddenly, he was left without a source of income and grappling with the fallout from his actions, which added another layer to the chaos that had already turned my life upside down. While I was picking up the pieces of my shattered marriage, he was dealing with the repercussions of his betrayal, and I couldn't help but think that, in some way, karma was finally catching up with him. Now, I'm living on a ranch just outside the city, and I couldn't be happier. The tranquility of the open land, the sound of nature, and the companionship of my 2 dogs and a few farm animals have brought me a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Each morning, I wake up to the sunrise over the fields, and it fills me with gratitude. I've embraced this new chapter of my life, one where I can finally focus on myself, free from the chaos and heartache of the past. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.